Hello, welcome to Crime of Critique. This is episode 10, and today we are talking about the newest monster flick, Godzilla X Kong. This is, I think, like the fourth installment of the modern Godzilla movies that they've pushed out. But yeah, it was. So we're gonna have two slightly different perspectives on this. We're gonna have He didn't watch the previous ones. I watched the previous ones. So just as a movie, what'd you think of it?
Just as a movie, I mean, it wasn't great. It wasn't horrible either. I mean, I'd probably give it a second rewatch for sure. A lot of the dialogue, almost all of the dialogue actually seemed to be filled with just a bunch of cliches. It wasn't choppy or anything, but I was inwardly groaning at almost every word because it was like, I just, oh yeah, I've heard that one before in every other movie that I've ever seen. I've heard that one before. Okay, got a little boring. The action scenes were okay. Main problems I had with that were very little perspective, very little visual perspective, and what I mean by that is like there was a big fight at one point, and you couldn't tell they were monsters because they just looked like normal-sized apes, and Godzilla looked just like a slightly big lizard, yeah. Because there was nothing in the background to really show. Everything that was in the background was also scaled up, so the boulders didn't look like mountains; they looked like boulders, that kind of thing, and also like. They didn't show also how, large these beasts were in how they moved. They moved like they were regular people, but, we all know if the bigger you are, the slower you go. Godzilla swam across the Atlantic, and it seems like 2 hours or something, yeah. Like max. He was just there and then there. You got to kind of show... I feel like they should have shown somehow, and from what Thaddeus has said, I've heard in the past they have done a decent job at showing, they are huge and slow. They're fast for their size, but slow compared to our size.
Yeah.
So that was basically most of the notes I had on it as a movie.
Okay, yeah. My perspective, look, these are based off, this is the fourth Godzilla movie. And this is what modern Hollywood has. Now, we had previously, a couple of months ago, Godzilla -1, which was actually done by the Japanese. And you have two different perspectives here. You obviously have -1, which was very human-centered. You had human story. It was basically a very intertwined human story with a big monster centered around it, basically. In Godzilla X Kong, you basically have humans surrounding big monsters that just fight, and it's basically a little over an hour and a half of monsters, big huge monsters going at it, but like you said, the scale isn't as felt as it should be. Like, these monsters are massive, like 100 feet tall kind of stuff, but yeah, as a movie, it's fine. If you want to go turn your brain off, go see a monster flick, this is one for you. Yeah.
One other note I just remembered off the top of my head, there was a few scenes where, they introduced an entirely new concept, and then 20, maybe 30 minutes later, it was this big plot point all of a sudden. They wouldn't have won this way unless this thing happened, which was only possible because he made this offhand comment over here. And I think it's kind of lazy writing in a way, because it's like, oh, we need to... have this push, or we need to have this creature be there at this time, so we're going to insert this little comment over here, which seems kind of like, what the hell? And then also it's like, boo, huge plot point here. Hi, how you doing?
Yeah.
It annoys me a little bit, but it's just a way of doing things, not the way I would do it.
Yeah, so yeah, there's a couple of plot holes you can point out, and it's not the most intellectual movie you're going to see. But that, in my opinion, is also its strength. It's a very simple movie. It's got it, yeah, and it's just big monsters fighting each other. That's literally it. And so it's just simple fun. That's what it is.
For sure. I'd agree with that one.
Yeah, and the music was big too.
Music was good. I like
Music was good. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. In conclusion, this was a good monster flick. It's a solid movie. It's better than some other movies we've seen this year, but it's not like anything mind blowing. So, in my opinion, this was actually a good installment for the franchise. Unlike the other movie I'm going to talk about, it was actually a fine addition to it. It didn't feel like a wasted movie.
It definitely didn't draw anything from what little I have seen of the series. Didn't take away at all. It did add a little bit. There was a few characters which, from what I understand, weren't portrayed as heavily in the other ones. That they portrayed a little bit more heavily in this version. Overall, a positive for sure. Just not a great movie.
Yeah.
Not top 20, not top 10 probably.
Yeah. All right. Well, we don't have that much to say about it, so.
Yeah. That's it. Adios.
Anyways, Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire. It was not good. So you obviously had two movies. You had Godzilla X Kong, Ghostbusters, and it's two kind of different ways at looking at long-term franchises. Godzilla X Kong, they stayed true to the formula of the franchise, and it works out for them. It's just a big monster flick, basically. However, for Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire, they basically did the same thing, and it did not work out. And the reason that is because the formula that they've been using for these movies, it's already gotten old and tired. And my issue with Ghostbusters is they should have canceled this series, in all honesty, probably after the second one. I actually kind of liked the second one that came out in the late 80s. And then you had the 2016 one, which no one talks about really anymore. They had kind of the reboot, the soft reboot, basically, with Afterlife, which I didn't think was bad. I kind of liked it. It was fine. But then due to that, you have this, which is probably the definition of a cash grab. The plot, it started off interesting. Probably the first 20 minutes were interesting. And then it got long. It dragged out. There was a weird, closest to lesbian thing you could get. That was annoying. That was just straight up annoying. And then they had the final boss and the boss fight, and the boss literally didn't do anything. And there wasn't any fighting of the boss. The boss didn't seem intimidating at all, really. Literally nothing happened with the boss until the last 10 minutes of the movie, and then that was it. It was over like that. And you basically had wasted an hour 30 just waiting for him to build up to the boss in the last 10 minutes, and then it wasn't even that great. So yeah, the plot was meh. It felt boring and formulaic, to be honest. And you could say that for Godzilla X Kong, but Godzilla X Kong, that was the nature of the movie, and it's for a particular audience. It just felt like, yeah, we're gonna try and be all sciencey girl boss about it, but it just fell flat on its face. Yeah, they should have canceled this series, to be honest. That's why I said, I was fine with Afterlife, but if it was going to make another sequel, and then this is the best they could come up with for a sequel to Afterlife, then Afterlife wasn't even worth it. In my humble opinion of this movie. So, yeah, conclusion, not great. Ghostbusters should have been canceled. In this year of sequels and soft reboots and prequels, there's obviously there's going to be more most of the time, like 90% of the time, sequels aren't going to be that good. And this is the truth right here. That is one of the 90% of not very good sequels. So this is going to go down as one of the more bad movies for me. It's really not worth your time. But yeah, that's it.